So in our previous one, we made this little part here. So now we'll do the sort of extension of, let me just bring back my PureRef. Cool. So now we have our reference back. And we can see that we just need to build this bit now. It should be fairly simple. If we look how it's kind of built, we can see it's quite, we've just got a cylinder on the inside and basically two sort of cylinders there as well. And how it's joined, it looks like it's joined quite, not a huge joint there. It's quite a thin bit of geo there. But it should be fine. We'll just try and match that exactly. And obviously this extends out as well. It kind of looks like this might be a... It's hard to tell what that is. That might be a rock. That looks like it's got lumps in it, so it could be like rubbery. But anyway, let's do this part. So if we... I should probably organise this, because I think I've made a bit of a mess of the reference. Cool. So we've got our arm here. I'm just going to rotate that up. And obviously our reference was fairly rough and not necessarily correct. But this sort of scaling, we can pull this out and just guesstimate. Because we didn't put that in the center. It was like I say, the reference is rough, but we want to keep to the scale, because imagine that like this has all been signed off. So we might actually need to move that eye a little bit closer at some point as well, but let's not worry about that at the moment. Just notice that. Probably from where we've duplicated it, but if it's not a big issue, it's not a big issue, but obviously a bit contradictory that we're not following the reference, so we need to bring that a little bit closer probably. Which is fairly simple to do, but we'll just do the arm. Cool, so we've pretty much got this scale, and what we can do is this is probably still not, yeah. So once we've duplicated it, it's kind of lost its values. So what we can do is, in fact, it shouldn't matter. Let's duplicate. Imagine this is a very similar size. So, in fact, no. I like to start off with fresh stuff, so let's hide the ref for now. And what I want to do is make sure that this is aligned. So I try and keep all my orients originating at the sphere, so I can, when I do have to rig it, I can keep it. Don't have to worry about doing custom orients. So let's go to rigging, constrain, point, and orient. Cool. That just means that we've got that there, and it's perfectly aligned. I'm just going to scale this out so it sort of fits in. Then we can just roughly scale it out. Cool, so I'm going to duplicate this. Scale it up. Ooh, make sure you don't negatively scale it. Just going to rotate this 90 degrees. Oh, sorry. And I'm just going to bring back my ref. It does look like our reference is probably a little bit too big in comparison with this, but we can just play around with it. So I'm just going to bring this back out, and I just want to try and match the certain sort of proportions. It doesn't matter if it's not absolutely perfect yet. We're kind of doing like a phase 2 blocking almost. So we can imagine that bit there. If we leave that there, actually, probably leaves us a nice amount of space to create the top and bottom bits. It's hard to see. See if we can see it in any other pictures. Not very well. You can see how it sort of extends out here quite nice. Well, not nicely, but you can just about see there's a sort of like, say, like pneumatic sort of piston sort of look. Yeah, there's not. If you find more ref, it will just make it easier for you. So I'm just gonna duplicate this up. And this looks like it's kind of a sheath, if you know what I mean. Like, that's not solid. So this middle bit goes all the way to the edge inside. So it kind of looks like this goes underneath and it pops out there. So we'll model it like that. In fact, what I will do, I'll just freeze the transforms, Control D. And then I kind of, when I'm doing stuff like this, I sometimes do that so I know that I've translated it up 1.8 units. It's just nice to know, because when you're moving stuff around, it can change. So now if I duplicate that, I could have left it as it was, but now I know it's a nice round value. So I'm just going to sort of guesstimate the sort of overlap, how thick this is. So I'm going to go with probably 1.1. And like I said, I am just blocking it, like doing a second blocking, just so I can get a nice idea of how I want to join things. So let's push that out. Obviously this is a little bit too... I feel that is quite small. It's not quite the right proportion. If we bring back our reference, you can probably tell that it's actually quite a lot larger in comparison to like the rest of it. So we'll just scale this all up a little bit. Just pull it out. Must have duplicated something twice. And don't worry that it's kind of got a bit squashed, we'll readjust that. And it's still quite a lot larger, so we'll just step that up again. In fact, we'll just unhide the reference. It's probably actually something like this, so let's hide that. Let's go to X-ray. I'm just going to group this so I can actually scale it a bit more uniformly. So it's obviously not overlapping there, but I think that's probably about right. And it's all sort of like attention to detail to sort of your scale reference. It can be very difficult if you don't have like the best reference, but like I say, you can probably search for better stuff online. I just grabbed whatever could do quickly. So that's looking pretty good. This is possibly a little bit too... Because as I'm doing this, I'm kind of thinking maybe that's actually a little bit... this might be a little bit too thin on here. Doesn't quite go... If you look at this, it doesn't quite taper off that much. So maybe I will actually... I wouldn't usually suggest using a scale on this, but hopefully it shouldn't cause too much of an issue. Cool. I feel that's a little bit better actually. So a bit more, a less tapered off, if you know what I mean. So if we scale this up and get that in there. So it only pokes out a little bit, but we can... So there's lots of different methods that you can go about your way doing this sort of stuff. This is just how I like to do stuff. I like to block. I like to do a lot of blocking, basically, before I start doing the actual modelling. So I'm just going to bring that in a little bit more. Because this is not as wide a gap. And we need that overlap. Possibly a little bit too much. Cool, so I'm quite happy with that. And I don't think our gap is... We've got quite a large gap here. So our gap's probably like something like that. Cool, so I'm now going to select this and I'm going to group all this, and I'm going to call this just more of a, we'll just call it blocking joint. Ooh. Control 1. So we've got this basic sort of shape, and what I want to do is, what I tend to do a lot is use quad draw to build stuff. So I can obviously like just model these around. This is not a complex shape, but it can be a bit annoying if you have to sort of like make it work perfectly. This has to be perfectly round whilst matching the curvature of here as well. So I'm gonna I do this. There are loads of different ways. People have different methods. This is just something that I do. So this is not like a set way. You might find this more useful. You might not. You might think it's a bit janky, or there are better ways to do it. But yeah, what I'm going to do is just... not going to do that. I'm just going to set this up so I can smooth it. So I'm going to select my edges. But what I can actually do is just hide that for now. Just gonna go back to my mesh and combine it so it's all one mesh. Like, this is just imagine it like a template. I'm just gonna bevel these. Very much similar stuff to what we've done on the head already. But I'm just making a template for me to model around. So if I press 3 on that, it's nice and smoothed out. But ooh, let's add some supporting edges on there, just so we get the best out of our smooth. Cool. So I don't actually want to smooth that, because when you smooth it, excuse me, when you use your quad draw, you actually want to smooth it properly. So you want to subdivide it, and don't worry that it's looking kind of ugly. I'm just going to subdivide it twice. So now we know that's pretty smooth. We kind of got the shape that we want. So I'm just going to freeze it and delete the history. I'm just going to make this live. In fact, first what I'll do is create another cylinder, and we can sort of select that. Rigging, point, orient. So now that is in the same place, or it was. Maybe we rotated it 90 degrees. Cool. And I can use this as a sort of base for my quad draw as well. So now I've got, it might be a bit confusing why I've done this. It just means that now I've just got, because you can start a quad draw from anything. So I can make this live, selecting it, then select on my P cylinder. I'll probably delete the history off it just in case. Then I'll start my quad draw. And my quad draw now starts, I've got a uniform sort of mesh that I can use, and I've got an equal amount. Like you need to, like my cylinders will come in with an equal amount, amount of GA where I can have a cross section, such as, so I can mirror it. So we don't actually have to model the whole thing. We only have to effectively model a quarter of it. As I say, you could probably even get away with just leaving it like this and texturing. Probably nothing wrong with that, to be honest. Yeah, if you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. I just kind of like to, I don't know, it's just kind of, I like to do it a bit, if you can try and make it nice and all proper, it's probably good to at least give it a go. But you'll find that actually a lot of the time you can probably just get away with keeping it as two separate meshes. So don't worry too much about that. If it's too complicated, yeah, it's absolutely fine to, like I say, it will probably look no different. It just means that you've got one mesh. And you don't have to worry about this. But if you work in production, they might need you to do that, so it's good to know. So I'm kind of just going around and building my core sort of, my key shapes even, that I need to, well, my key edge loops. So I'm going to try and avoid having to bevel this. But if I can get the right edge loops in, I don't have to. I'll effectively be creating a manual bevel, but it'll be, I wouldn't say it's not like, wouldn't be more precise. It just means that I have a little bit more control doing it this way. Or you can just build your edge loops and just bevel it. But everyone has a different way. Once you get into topology and stuff, you'll definitely understand it a bit more once you get into it. I need to make sure that I've got a similar amount up at the top. So when I do duplicate this, I need to make sure that I've got the correct amount on here as well. Actually, I'm actually doing that wrong. I need to delete these. I'm just completely, because that actually goes under, doesn't it? So it needs to go and join under here. So let's figure that out. And a lot of stuff with doing this sort of geometry is it's like figuring out a puzzle. I don't know what I was going on about. No, it was right. Ignore that. Let's see if I can undo that and bring that back. Sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. Yeah, no, that's correct. It's a momentary lapse of concentration there. So I've got, sorry, excuse me. I've got 1, 2, 3 polygons on top. So I kind of want to, not that it matters so much because we can hide a lot on top, but we want to make sure we can at least keep it reasonably a correct amount of poly. Well, not necessarily, the poly count doesn't necessarily matter so much. It's more of a finding, being able to finish these edge loops off nicely. So I could add a it's risky to add a pole there on a curve. There's a strong chance that this might create something that we don't want, but we can see how it goes. Let's not relax it yet. So I'm kind of keeping to this sort of. I'm not worried about that other side because we can duplicate it around. So we only have to build this like 1/4. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to get in there. So I just have to bring it a little bit closer. Sometimes it does get quite annoying that it doesn't do it. So you might have to go from the other side and build it back up. Probably because it's such a long stretch for it, so we do need to figure out how we can. But the good thing about this is you can sort of make it doesn't necessarily have to be perfect straight away. You can play around with it, and that's why the cut draw is so good. You can drag stuff around. I got a feeling that this is going to be too much of a sharp edge, so we'll probably have to pull this down to match. And anyway, that's something not good here. We don't want that. But let's try and get this shape roughly done. And we can figure out the correct topology for it. Don't worry that that's all wobbly edge, we'll fix that. Cool, so we definitely do not want that because that's going to cause quite an annoying kink in our geometry. So we might add a Let's try and get this evened out and see what's gone wrong. It might actually be alright if we space it out a little bit more, but we've got this sort of weird edge loop here, which we kind of don't want. It doesn't quite go into a loop, it goes into curls round and sort of does some funny stuff. So let's just pull this all around, get this nicely spaced out. Obviously, we probably fix this just by doing it's not quite fixed the problem, but we've just added another edge loop. That's a little bit better. Cool. Can space these out a bit. Kind of want to keep that away from our sort of our own bevel edged. Let's try when we relax it. We want to try and maintain that edge there, just because it's a good sort of foundation. We can scale that and sort of fix that a little bit later. So now we need to sort of build this shape up here. And this is why it makes it sometimes a lot easier when you build a rough sort of template geo, then just quad draw around it. You can just model it straight off if you want to. There's no problem with that. I prefer sometimes doing it this way. Because you're not relying on a bevel to sort of tighten up your edges. You can create your edges as tight as you want, if it will let you. Sometimes it is a bit annoying and you have to sort of play around with it. So let's stretch this, make this so it's kind of not on the edge, but let's actually make it so that bridges over. It's probably what's making it tough for it to decide where to go. So we're going to just treat that as sort of an equal distance. Cool. So let's do another heightened edge. I say you might have better tools than other software. There's no strict rule what you got to model in. At the end of the day, it's whatever gets your job done. So I just use mine because yeah, that's what I use. Basically, nothing too crazy about that. It's just what I use. Some people don't like mine for modeling. Can be a bit overcomplicated, but once you get used to it, you get used to it. It's fine. It's just using all the tools at your disposal. There's no such thing as cheating. Cool, so we've got that. Probably might need some extra edges in there, but before we go any further, what I'll do is just scale these flat, copy and snap to that point. Let's do the same with that one as well. See how wonky that was? We scale it up and snap it to that. So now we've got a uniform edge matching. So let's turn our make live on. Select diet and quad draw again. Let's just smooth that out a bit, I guess. Cool. So now I've just got to build this part here. What we'll probably do is make a pole here, so we can have that follow around. So this part gets a little bit tricky to match this up, because we need to keep this a hard edge here. So we're not actually going to go around this. We can actually just, like we did here, we can let's just create another cylinder. And what we can do, we can figure out how we can join this. Let's just leave our wireframe on, and we can actually use our previous one as a sort of guide. This will be helpful. So what we can do is actually try and match up the topology on here to match. So if we start here actually and pull this, and we're going to go every 2. Let's probably delete that. Let's bring this down. Then what we can do, we can start building our cylinder up from these. So I'm just matching every 2 edges here. To make sure that we're in sync with the top ones. So actually, we need to be that one there. So we might need actually a few extras, because these edges are not marrying up. Should be okay though, because we can just add extras in. That should be alright actually, because we can just allow that to sort, because that's still going to be matching on this smooth edge. When we do smooth it, it should be absolutely fine. Cool. So I'm trying to think, should we, in fact, let's just go around and model it, it'll be fine. Instead of chopping bits off, because we still need to do the underneath bit. I know this looks a little bit manual, but it gives you an idea of like how you can use some of the tools and how it doesn't work how you want it to work sometimes, and it's quite annoying. But what? Yeah, it's mostly like how you can use it in multiple different ways. So now we're creating this sort of shape. But before we go any further, we do need to figure out this inside bit. Because obviously we've got some funky bit stuff going here. And we want that to follow round at least. Probably, see, that's a bit risky there, having that node there. We could probably hide it. After the fact. but we can align these a little bit better with our other cylinder. This is a bit rough. Because the idea is that we do follow this sort of edge pattern. And we probably could just duplicate that geo for now, but cool. So what I do want to do is, where is it? Let's just do the same with that. Let's check the edges. Just going to bevel it. Just going to modify, mesh smooth it, just so I've got some nice divisions there. I'm just going to use this as a guide, because that's how far we need to go. So following this bit is not going to be our best, but we can use this as a reference. So we've actually got more subdivisions on here now. So what we need to do is actually select this and subdivide it one more time so it matches. Cool. So I'm just now going to go around and try and align this as best as I can. Ignoring the green, I'm just going with the geo that I've just created. Bit of a dodgy area here, I'm not going to lie. Could be better. Let's undo that. Let's see if we can actually make it better. This is where we come to an issue where we've probably created too much subdivision. So let's see if we can reverse this. Delete that. Oh, it's not going to go away. Cool. So if we go every 2 instead of every single one, keep using this as the reference and it should all be okay. Got some dodgy stuff here, but let's go to quad draw and just select those every 2 edges. Control delete gets rid of the vertices as well. So we'll just pull this to there. And it just means you don't end up with like wonky. It's very easy to end up with like really wonky geometry. Just using this as a guide. I know I keep saying that, but And probably by the time I've done it, you've probably already finished your models. And yeah, so like you don't need to wait for me to finish. It's only taken so long because I'm talking over it, but feel free to sort of zoom ahead. Because you've got some not great geo here, but we can probably hide it for the sake of keeping this like that. I think it's a fair sacrifice. We're not really going to see it, but you probably want to spend a bit of time on the topology of it. But I'm trying to make these as quick as possible, but they always seem to turn out very, very long. Obviously, quad draw can be a bit of a pain in the butt sometimes. So we've definitely got some horrible stuff going on here, which we want to try. I'm not proud of this bit here, but we can see how it looks when we smooth it. It might be okay, but it's not our finest hour. So we can just see how that goes. Cool, so I'm just going to carry on. We don't need to do all of these, we need to do a quarter. So I think we've actually gone past. No, it's up to there. Cool. We're getting there. I know it's kind of feels a bit manual. Hopefully once it's all done, it'll become a bit clearer. Let's say you probably could have just Boolean this and just got away with that. Not a fan of Booleaning, so I'm actually gonna no. Cool. So it's taken ages already, hasn't it? It's 40 minutes on this little bit. I swear it shouldn't take this long. Cool. So we've now built that. We know that's round. And we're at the sort of, we got the right sort of dimensions that we need. So I'm actually going to go, I'm just going to duplicate that. I always like to duplicate and hide it. I'm just going to delete the edges. I'm just going to delete our sort of, so now we just have a quarter of the object that we need. And we can finish off the tops and bottoms. So keeping this in the center, I can just control D. Ooh. What happened there? It flipped around. Anyway. Did I duplicate that? Control D to duplicate. I'm just going to minus it in the X. You can see now it's duplicated it down. And I can do the same again. I can merge these, so it's probably actually better for me to merge these, or combine at least. Why did you not combine mesh? Oh, before combining, this will have a negative transform on it, so make sure you freeze the transform on it, so you're merging with both positive scales. So just combine. I'm just going to select. Do you know what? It's probably easier for me just to go merge center, just merge the center. I know they're on top of each. Just press G, selecting, click and drag, and just pressing G for repeat command. I know for certain that it's doing it. Sometimes it can be a little tricky and not do it like that. So we've got something going on here. I know it's looking a bit messy at the moment, but we'll fix that. Mesh. Right, my keyboard's a bit rubbish, so it might have missed. This is not, something's here. Why are you doing that? So sometimes this will happen. So it's best just to delete the geometry. It could be simple as something's just not merging correctly, but we can just delete it and bridge it. Press G again, hopefully. So it's not those polygons. Okay, so there's something here. So let's find out. This is always important. Like, I know it's gone. Seems like it's all gone wrong, but it's good to sort of find these things. I couldn't possibly that I've accidentally double extruded, which is usually the main cause of issues like that. You might have accidentally put a extrude on an edge, but apparently not. It's still there. Okay, let's try and figure this out. Why is that doing that? Should not be doing that. Could be something this way. It does get annoying when no matter how careful I try and be. So whatever it is, it's gone in there. Likely could be something funny with the bridge as well. Sometimes bridge can do odd things. You can't beat a target, a little extrude in target world. That should usually sort stuff out. We're coming to the issue here. So it looks like it was just not this vertice welding. check. In fact, did any of those? Okay, so that's really weird. So I'll select all those, go edit mesh, and merge to center. Okay, so it's very odd is happening. Honestly, couldn't tell you what's happening. Maybe I might need to delete the history on it. There might just be something strange going on. So this does happen sometimes. It's the glory of working with Maya. But you can just delete all the history. I should probably save it at some point. Cool. Let's use target world. Press 3. And I know that's ideally, you might not even come across this problem. Yours might be absolutely fine. But at least you know how you can fix it. Cool. So now we've done that, what we'll do first is bring back our sort of our temporary mesh, and we'll bring that live again. And we'll just quad draw that. Then we can just relax it. If we don't go too close to the edge, we'll break our sort of sharpness of it, but we want to because this kind of kinks down. I imagine this is it's possible that this could create a kink in our geometry. So I kind of want this to sort of smooth out as much as I can, so it's nice and evenly spread out. So I imagine it's probably going to look a bit. It might add something there, but who knows? Cool. So we've done that bit. And we should have gone rounded in half. I don't know why I didn't do that. That was stupid. We can worry about that in a minute. Okay, yeah, that was well, I seem to make a lot of. I do try to not make lots of mistakes, but sometimes. Cool. So what we'll do now is centralize these points, scale them, W and hold V and snap them to this point here. So I know that's in the center. And these should be all good. So if I scale that, should be any difference. Yep. If I change my pivot point to there, Control D, -1 in, -1 in the Z. And now we've created this sort of shape here, whilst keeping as close as we can to our actual mesh. So select both of these and edit mesh and combine. Let's delete the history. I'm hoping that I can just merge these. I don't know why. Edit mesh, merge the center. Let's double check that's done it. It has. Cool. So when you're doing this, make sure you don't select ones behind, because if you do, it will you'll know, because it'll do weird stuff. And you can use the other merge to sort of select them all. So you could go merge, select all those, mesh tools, and merge. This might not get all of them though. If we change that to 2, you just got to be careful that it's not merging things that you don't want. So now if I press 3, it's all looking pretty good in there. See, we can relax this a little bit. Cool, and now we just need to finish off this bit here, which we missed. And this is almost taken an hour just to do this a little bit. So make sure you save it. It's only taking so long because I'm being quite particular on how I'm doing all this. You could probably just leave it as 2 bits of geometry, but I like to be able to figure out the sort of correct amount of polygons that I'm spreading around. Cool. So what I can do is because I was using that as a guide, I can just, well, I can, in fact, no, let's, sorry, I'm just thinking out loud. I probably should have done that all the way around, and now I've ended up with an annoying shape, which we could have quite easily fixed. So I'm just going to duplicate that and Shift P and it out. I'm just going to scale this up. So effectively you want that bottom bit there. Let's think of the best way to do this without. I think unfortunately I've made a mess, like usual. Let's just carry on. It's not a huge amount to quad draw. No, it's not ideal, but at least we know it's going to be consistent. It's kind of what I really want to go for, is making sure that it is absolutely consistent. So I probably should have done it all the way around there, basically. I didn't do enough. For some reason I needed I thought a quarter would be enough, but I was completely wrong. So I can just do that top bit, and I won't do it for all of them. I'll just duplicate it over again and do the same one with the sort of the merge and the scale and merge sort of thing that I was doing. and you don't have to sit through all of this. This can be quite, some of these tutorials can be quite lengthy. And you might be using a different software, which is like, why would you do it this way? The reason why I do it this way is because if you're doing the blocking, and you need to get sign off from, like, say, like the client, and the blocking's all signed off, you don't have to work with the blocking. You can just send them whatever, sort of. It doesn't matter about topology or anything like that. You don't want to be wasting time. You just want to get the actual, like, concept out. Then you can worry about how to do it properly afterwards. This damn thing will never go to the right polys. Sometimes you've got to work your way back. God, it's not reading that as a... Let's just join that there. Quad draw can be quite annoying sometimes, there's no doubt. Just doesn't give you what you want. You can find that sweet spot. It's quite annoying, really. This is quite a complex way of going around creating this shape. So, yeah, I know there are probably much quicker ways. Sure, I'm just gonna... Because I could have reused this, but I don't think it's actually slightly offset. So you can use that, but due to my OCD, I don't want to. Quite happy to keep the same method. Then you get less things going wrong. Although I don't think my tutorials are a good example of things that go wrong quite a lot. But it's real life. Things go wrong all the time, so apparently these are the hardest things to sort of for it to figure out. I don't know why. Stuff like this takes quite a long time, and it could be just, I don't know why. So I'm just roughly sticking it in there so I can just, it's easier to pull it around afterwards. Doesn't like it, it's a little bit too close. That's why quad draw can be a little bit funny, but it's a really useful tool. It's got its quirks. I'm sure other software has something probably identical. That probably works a little bit better. But most of the time you don't get a choice what software you have to work in. So it's good to know Maya for sure. a lot of companies, you probably just not necessarily get a choice whether to use other things. Sometimes they do, but a lot of companies are Maya based, but becoming more flexible. This is taking a ridiculous amount of time to do this. You can skip through this. It's just I don't really edit my videos. What you see is what you get. So cool. So that's what we should have done the first time around. So just do that, and what I will do is now annoyingly delete those bits and delete those bits, and we'll do that again. Oh, I don't think I've done it enough. No, I'm such an idiot sometimes. Need to do it one more time to actually get to the center. Like I say, you don't have to watch all of this. You can skip through it. Probably by now you probably can smash through a lot of these tutorials. Like I say, and every one I sort of target them towards more of a beginner side, so you might get tired of me talking things that you already know. Cool. So now we're in the center. So delete those edges. That's what we should have done in the beginning. Sorry about that. Yeah, like I said, I don't plan these. I know I probably should, but honestly, I think it's nice for you to kind of, it's nice for you guys to kind of see, like, even people that do this every day make mistakes. It's not like a perfect run through. So even if things do go wrong, it doesn't really matter. It really doesn't. All that matters is that you fix it. I'm just going to combine, select all these middle bits, and hopefully if I go mesh, merge. So these are my closest points, so I'm just going to keep an eye on them. Hopefully 0.2 should be enough, so press 3. Cool. And that's looking pretty good. I will just double check this because I'm not been too lucky with the old merge points recently. So we've got this completely round at the bottom, so now we'll press insert, snap it to the bottom vertice, Control D, -1 in the Y, and now that's flipped upside down. So just going to freeze transforms again, then mesh, combine. Select all these where it's joining, mesh and merge. Oh, not merge to center, mesh and merge. So hopefully when I press 3 they should all be nice and smooth. Turn my wireframe or shading off. You can see that now we've got this quite a complex shape. It's not like super complex, but it's clean and tidy, and it will subdivide nicely if you need to sculpt it. Obviously we can tidy up some bits here. So what we'll do before we actually go any further, I will try and select. Oh. So we'll go to my quad draw. Just going to relax some of these. Sort of check my edge flow on some stuff. And like before, we did relax this, but I had to do it again. So this is obviously a bit of a dodgy. I would say this is a bit of a. This is your high risk area here, but it should be fine as long as we keep it nice and smooth with the actual base geo. So I use this quite a lot, the relax tool over smooth geometry, just because I know it's always there for a backup. Feel free, you don't have to do it this way. Like this is not like a modeling 101. It's kind of just, it's how I'd do it. It'd be a lot quicker. Obviously, it's a lot quicker when you're not talking over it, explaining every mistake and why you're fixing it. Because yeah, I do make a lot of mistakes sometimes. Cool. So now I've done that, we just need to finish it off basically, and we can let's put this in a reference group. We need to probably tidy this up a bit, but so select my edges and get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. So I'm just going to extrude these out. And extrude them in. Actually, this is a little bit higher. And we'll just extrude it in so we can see. If we just turn our X-ray on, we can see how much we're doing. And we can sort of guesstimate on how much distance we're doing here. It doesn't have to be absolutely bang on, but it does help to get it sort of roughly correct, because it just makes it easier for us to sort of figure out. Cool. So I'm pretty happy with that current shape. It seems to be that this is could be a little bit too thick. So this is kind of like going to the extreme sort of sides things. So I think that might possibly be a bit too thick. So I'm just going to use my transform component just so I can push these uniformly out. I'm just going to Control E and extrude them up. And we don't have to do the whole thing. We can leave it fairly open. So we got this sort of thing, because now this breaks, this pole here will break our edge loop, but it shouldn't break it if we multi-cut below. So if we press 3, it should give us a sharp edge. We can bevel these edges, so we're pretty much almost done. We're just actually going to use a bevel for the first time. So it's quite rounded, those edges. Ooh, something's gone funky here, so let's Okay, so that's coming down from there. So we want to possibly see if we can remove this somewhere. Because that's not ideal. So these are these little things that you got to keep an eye out for. In fact, so let's leave that. And let's fix this. So what we can do is, it seems like this is more of a modeling and how to fix stuff, because obviously we had this edge here and it's not uniformly come down. So we'll just Control D on that, Shift P. I like to reuse as much as I can, so I'm just going to scale this up. Now we can sort of see where our geometry should be heading towards, and because it's sort of scaled out, it's spread out and it's done something a bit crazy. So let's fix this. So only selecting the X and Z, not the Y. That effectively needs to go in there. Get to our X-ray. Wow, this is taking a lot. It always takes a lot longer than I think. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I say, you don't have to watch all of this. Like, these are not quick tutorials. They're, think of them as more walkthroughs, walk and talk throughs sort of thing. Not speed runs. So I don't think you learn anything from speed run, to be honest. You just see someone do it. So let's go back to our X-ray, and there's some other stuff here. And it's good just to keep an eye out on things. Like, you don't know it's happening until it's gone wrong. And I can list all the things that'll probably go wrong, but what's the point? You may as well watch me make those mistakes, then you'll go through and be like, oh no, you can do it this way. Cool, so we sort of cleaned that up. This actually needs to come out a bit. It's obviously not perfect, but there are some strange bits going on. I'm not going to do that for the top because we can just duplicate that up. Before I do that, I'm just going to bevel it and test it. So we can see we've got some sort of ridging here. Let's undo that bevel. So it's quite easy for things to go wrong. So it's possibly just pulled it slightly in a funny angle. Something a bit funky going on here as well. There's lots of, it's probably from extruding down from that, it's made it a little bit funny. Let's bevel that again. Let's make it a bit smaller bevel. Cool, we've got some like kinking going on here. We can sort of try to fix that. So what happens when it's not 100% uniform, but I think this should be okay in this case. It shouldn't be too obvious. Also, I'm actually I'm gonna duplicate that. And yeah, edit mesh and extract. Or not, I don't know why not do that. To be honest, I could just select all that, then deselect that, and delete it. Like that. Center that pivot. V and snap it to that. Then we just need to mesh display reverse. So now we've just got the same up there. So this edge here, and bevel it the same amount, which was 0.08 and 2. So now all I need to do is just delete those, not those. I know it's possibly a little bit messy. There's some mess here. You can spend more time cleaning this up if you want. I just want to try and get this done now. I know it's I seem to be spending a long, and generally like I'd spend probably a lot longer on modeling stuff as well. It's not a quick task to do if you need to do it right. And we've definitely got some wrong bits here, but hopefully you shouldn't notice it too much. I'm just going to scale these in. Cool. I'm going to select all these edges here. Bevel them. Let's do, and let's multi-cut on the inside of this one because we don't actually have an edge loop anymore because we didn't maintain the edge loop on the edges. But we can see now we've created this sort of shape. We've got this, let's try and get rid of this kink. It's quite annoying that it's there. So what I can do is if I scale this up, I can sort of see, match that, where my kink's coming from. So if I subdivide this again, I see my problem areas are here. So I'm just gonna go to my world, slightly adjust these, hopefully I'm not selecting anything on top. I'm currently in a sort of smooth but proxy preview as well, which is 2, which basically means I can see my proxy geometry below it. I can also Be really careful that you're not selecting anything behind it. So I don't know where it went wrong. It went wrong somewhere, so obviously be very careful with how you're pulling your geometry around. But it's knowing how to fix it is the key, really. If you can fix it, that's fine. I just hope I haven't made more of a mess. Usually you end up making more of a mess. Cool, that's looking much better. Bit more evenly spaced. Cool. Oh yeah, let's don't have to do the top. We can do the same again. Let's just delete that. Let's just delete the top bit. Duplicate that, just select everything again. One, I'm just gonna insert and snap to one of these edges. Cool, I've got the exact same thing. You can use mirror. I like to do it this way sometimes. I'm just gonna freeze that before I merge it. And mesh combine. I'm going to edit mesh and merge. So hopefully that should all be on top of each other. So if I press 3 now, that's yeah, and that's now taken an hour and a half. Sorry that's taken so long, but we've got a nice, really clean bit of geometry that's in one piece, and yeah, that's taken ages. I wasn't expecting that, but yeah, anyway, probably from all the mistakes. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this tutorial, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more like this.